I hate Timo. Do not get it wrong. No, because why would you make me wear that in front of the camera? I hate Jace the Arcane. Jace the Arcane. The Arcane. Hey guys, what's up? It's Rigo with Grizz Media, and today we have a very special video because today we're doing our full review of Arcane, League of Legends' newest show, and how we can use that show to enrich our storytelling. So, without further ado, let's venture into the Arcane. Spoilers for Season 1 and 2 are ahead, be warned. Arcane is League of Legends' newest show, and it has to do with two different regions, Piltover and Zaun. These two are side by side in the region of Runeterra, League of Legends cinematic world. Within these regions, there are different champions that you can play in League, and each of their backstories come from the regions that are shown on the map. The main characters we see on the show are these playable characters that you can play in the game. But what does the map of League of Legends, a game, have to do with the show? That's going to bring us into our first tip that League of Legends does really well. It's creating the backstory and the lore for the characters, as well as the setting that they take place. Piltover and Zaun have this massive political tension that is already displayed in the first minutes of the show, as well as the main characters Vi and Jinx, who show us their true intentions and their motivations also in the beginning of the show. Understanding where your characters come from and their motivations helps lay the foundations for the kinds of actions that they're going to take throughout the story. Arcane does a really good job of this of Season 1 and Episode 1. The first 3 minutes show an aftermath of a vicious battle. Vi and Jinx are at the scene with Vander, and we can see that his hatred is developing within Jinx. She mourns for her parents while Jinx is holding on to her and clings to her for support. Vander carries the both of them, symbolizing the burden that he will have to face in protecting the two of them. As Vi looks over at Piltover, showing the conflict that we had with them, we can see the hatred is developing with her. And we already have the overarching character motivations, as well as the overarching plot between Piltover and Zaun, that something has occurred in order for these two nations to have beef with one another. And this was all done without any expositional dialogue. Many times when people are shooting films or trying to recreate scenes, they tend to explain everything through dialogue. Maybe it's a character that comes out of nowhere that explains what they need to do next, rather than showing. And that brings us to tip number two. Showing can be more powerful than telling. Some of the most powerful scenes in Arcane and in cinema in general come from pure visual storytelling. This is where the soundtrack comes in and really hits the emotion of the viewer. Expressing the emotion of characters and muting dialogue only enhances the experience and impact of these characters to feel and help us grow more attached to them. An example of this is in episodes 6, 3, and 9 of Season 1. Their endings always don't include dialogue, and it's mostly just the soundtrack playing while we see something unfold. And that brings us to tip number 3, the soundtrack. Various artists and music producers were used to create the soundtrack for Arcane, but if you've been listening to Riot's music for a while, you know that they never miss. The tempo of the music, as well as the crescendo of the melodies, impact what we are viewing to such a level that it leaves us wanting more. As I said with the ending of episodes 3, 6, and 9 of Season 1, these are great examples because a very powerful song is playing while the scene is happening, which makes us feel for it even more. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it made me cry a little bit watching it for the first time. So when you're choosing a scene, finding the perfect song that can match with it is going to be vital for you to be able to express the emotion that you want to say, and also create that storytelling aspect that is really only seen in indie films and really low budget films, but they're really great. This is a real scene that's happening, and it's not something that's really fabricated. But it doesn't just end in Season 1. In Season 2, we're introduced to new characters and new situations that complicate the tension between Piltover and Zaun that we saw in Season 1, which is another good way to create an impactful story. Tip number 4, not everything needs closure and not everything needs a happy ending. Being able to manifest a problem for the character and have them struggle to not solve it in time is a realistic and more gravitating way to relate these characters. An example of this is with Vi. She wants to be with her sister, and she's always trying to help her as well. But time and time again, we see her fail. And that's an okay thing because it strengthens our relationship with Vi, and it strengthens our bond with her as well. We want to root for her. We want her to succeed. But sometimes in real life, we don't always get what we want, and we don't always succeed in our goals. So having these realistic scenarios pop out in a fictional show just creates that element of realism within your film, and that's a really great way to get audiences engaged. So when you're brainstorming about different conflicts and resolutions, try to think, well, what happens if the good guys don't win? What happens if we don't get what we want in the end? Think about it and try to brainstorm with it. It leads to really good stories. All these elements that we've talked about, they all come clashing together in a beautiful way towards the end of Season 2. We see these elements unfold with the final battle with Echo, Isha pulling the trigger and sacrificing herself, and with Vander remembers Vi and Jinx for the final time before becoming the true embodiment of Warwick. One of my personal favorite scenes is when Vander truly becomes Warwick, and they took this straight out of his lore. I'll read you line by line what it says in his lore and how they translated it in his story. Warwick struggled to recall a single memory of his past. All he could see was blood, but then he heard a little girl screaming something he couldn't understand. It sounded like a name. He had already forgotten his. He sensed that was for the best. Pain soon overwhelmed all other thoughts. Blood was the only thing left. Though his body and mind were broken after weeks on the slab, Warwick stubbornly resists the chemicals transmuting him. Toxins leaked from his eyes in place of tears. He coughed up globs of caustic phlegm that sizzled against his chest before burning shallow holes on the floor of the lab. Restrained against the cold steel of the table, Warwick withered in agony for hours on end, until his body finally gave out. As a League of Legends fan myself, this is an incredible thing to see, and I was totally blown away seeing the exact lore being translated and seen in a visual way. And it was all done without any dialogue. I could go on and keep talking about Arcane forever, but I think I might save more details or more little things for another day. Overall, as someone who's been playing this game, League of Legends, for 8 years now, this has been an amazing experience in terms of how I would rank the show. This has been an amazing experience. Seeing my favorite game come to life in an animated show and seeing one of my favorite characters, which is Warwick, come to life, it was really a pleasure to see. For everything that it has and everything that it's missing, there are very few things I can say that are wrong with Arcane, and I'm really excited for the next series that's going to come out for this game. So if I had to rank it out of 10, I think I would rank it a good 10 out of 10. It really is an amazing show, and if you haven't watched it already, I really recommend that you give it a watch. Plus, if you want to see me play some League of Legends, I do have my gaming channel, which will be linked in the description of this video only. So if you guys want to see me on there, I do live stream as well. My Twitch will also be linked down below if you want to see me catch up on some League of Legends. But that's going to be it for my review of Arcane and some of the major tips we learned about storytelling. Did anybody else cry when Isha died? If you guys did, be sure to go ahead and give the video a like. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you all in the next video. It's Rigo with Grizz Media signing off. Have a great day, guys.